Someone, we are lucky to have this well-known speaker tonight. He is a real estate coach and active investor for 25 plus years. Has 100 plus stores, has also $1 million in private lending across Canada. She loves to share her time helping others, and this is some of the things she really loves to do. She's coming to connect with people and talk to people. So welcome, Huong Luu. Give her a round of applause.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for coming. So my name is Hong, like Hong Kong, and no, I was not born in Hong Kong, but that's an easy way to remember my name. So before we get into the presentation, I would like a volunteer. Me! Julie, come on up, Julie. Julie, come on over here. Good pleasure. So this is my good friend Julie. Okay, so I know that a lot of you are missing out on the hockey game. Also, Julie, please. Yes, that's for me. Okay, we'll do this. All right, so for those of you, who are missing the Oilers game, I'm wearing this as a token of the game happening. But you guys are here instead because your education is way more important than what's ever happening with the Oilers game. And this is a constant reminder that you're missing the game. Okay, so as a gift for coming up to help me.
Oh, thank you. Oh.
So this sweatshirt is BTW, by the way, but it's also the car wash that my partner and I own in St. Albert. So if you're happen to drive around and you've got a dirty car or truck, an RV, anything, swing by there and you can get your car washed. Before I forget, if you stay until the very end, I definitely will be giving some additional gifts. And I promise these are actually useful gifts. They're not going to be a magnet with my face on it. It'd be really cool to have my face on your fridge, Alice. It's not going to be a complimentary phone call where I upsell you into one of my coaching programs. It's not going to be that, okay? It will be actual useful gifts that you can use. Please save your questions until the end. I might actually answer some of those questions by the time I get to the end. And also because I want to make sure that I'm in the time frame that I'm allotted. And also I want to make sure that you guys can get back to the networking, which is one of the great things that I love about this organization. So I do have two favors to ask of the group. The first one is sometimes I can come across really bossy with what I'm saying. And so I ask you to first, please forgive me if I come across as being bossy or if I'm talking at you as opposed to just talking to you. So please forgive me for that first part. And then the second part is, I know that you've given up your night, even though some of you are wearing your Oilers shirt and I'm now wearing this, that you've paid and come here to get something out of tonight's event. And so please, the second thing that I ask is do not let me get off the stage until you've actually learned something, or unless you've gotten to the point where you're like, you know what, that was worth my time to come tonight. Okay, so that's my second ask of you. I also want to take the time to thank the group who put this organization together. For those of you who don't know, it's actually a nonprofit group. And so as part of my way of supporting the group is we are selling the hats along with a copy of Rising Above the Rest book. Myself and 13 other real estate investors are in this book collaboration. The books are being sold at $30, plus you get a complimentary hat, and all of the proceeds go to the group. So there's 13 different investors who wrote a different chapter in here, and it will give you at least 13 different strategies in real estate. So highly recommend it. Just buy it over there. Okay, I don't make any money off of this. So highly suggest that if you want to contribute to the group in some way, this is another way to do that. Okay?
Stand up if you wrote a chapter.
Oh yeah, and then you can go and bug the people in the room who actually wrote in the chapter. So there's Dawn, Julie. Oh, Mark is here.
Dawn, stand.
Oh yeah.
Stand up.
Thanks. Julie. And Lana wrote a chapter as well.
Yes.
And Mark is visiting from out of town, so he's not here all the time. So if you buy a copy tonight, you can open it and get him to sign a copy. And he's French, if that matters at all. All right, so we are going to get into the topic of the eightplex. And what I was hoping that I could do with your permission is to share a little bit about my journey and then share with you how I got into the situation of building an eightplex. And so just to clarify on the term of an eightplex, it's actually 4 units plus 4 basement suites or 4 in-law suites. So it's a 4 by 4. I've been calling it an eightplex. My journey started in second year university. I was in chemical engineering and I bought my very first triplex in downtown Toronto. So I was pretty lucky. And then I bought some more real estate, continued to buy more real estate. And then in 2018, bought my first place in Edmonton and continued to do some land development, do more investing in Edmonton, buying more joint venture partnership properties, more multifamily, the car wash, expanded into Saskatchewan, buying more multifamily, and now in 2025, doing the eightplex build and a couple of projects on the island. So the first one here is the eightplex, and I'm gonna get into more detail of that, like everything imaginable. I was told to not hold anything back. So I am going to be sharing a lot of numbers and a lot of the challenges that I've had with my eightplex. And then my other 2 projects that I currently have on the go, they're over in Vancouver Island in BC. And I'm currently raising funds for those as well. So if you're interested in using or leveraging your RRSPs or TFSAs, please connect with me on that. The thing that you'll notice about all 3 projects is that they're value add. Right? The bottom one is actually an existing 40-unit townhouse complex that we already own. It's under the CMHC MLI program already. But we're actually converting 5 of the mechanical glorified storage rooms into 5 bachelor units. And that alone will increase the property value by about $1.8 million. Some of the content that I'm going to share tonight is your results will be very different. So I do need to just put this up there. But the information that I'm sharing is the situation that I'm going through. And so it will give you some guidance as to what you can expect when you go through a similar process. So the 4 things I'm going to cover tonight is acquiring the property, okay, because I started that in 2018. Picking the builder, and we're actually really lucky they're actually in this room, so I'll point them out when I get to that section. The financing. This is a huge part of doing any of the infill developments, and then we'll get right into the gifts. If you will remember my timeline, in 2018, I moved to Edmonton and purchased this cute little white house. Now, some of you might have seen this. I connected with Nathan earlier and found out that we actually spoke about this property a little bit. So in 2018, I bought this cute little single family home in a lot in Eastwood, and it had a basement suite. The red dot is where it is located in Edmonton. And I was coming from Toronto, downtown Toronto, where I already had a bunch of properties. And I was like, I'm gonna move to Edmonton. I'm gonna buy up all of Edmonton, right? Because, you know, us snobs from Toronto think that way. So I was walking around for a while going, $1 million, $1 million, so. But very quickly, so this is where the house is located. I didn't know that it was in the triangle. But that wasn't supposed to be funny, but okay, anyway. So we bought the place in 2018. Price was $200,000. It was a double lot, so I was sold by the agent, right, who said, Huong, you know, it's a double lot. You can tear it down, put 2 skinnies up. It's gonna be a great moneymaker for you. And I was like, great, you know, I could buy this and move my whole family to Edmonton and it'll just be fantastic. So a couple of nice photos with the basement suite. So we moved to Edmonton, and the plan was to tear it down and build something like this. Okay, so this was not what we ended up doing though. So at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, I started phoning up all the builders and saying, hey, how much would it be to build 2 skinnies? What's the cost? What's the hard cost? What's the soft cost? All of that stuff, just doing my research. And I was told that to build would be anywhere from 715 to 800,000. So this was in 2019 to build 2 skinnies. And the selling price was anywhere from 750 to 830. So for those of you who follow me on my Money Matters Monday Live Facebook, you know I don't need 30 minutes to analyze this. Okay. So I was really stuck at this point because I'd already packed up my son and my partner at that time, and we moved to Edmonton, right? And that whole dominate Edmonton $1 million thing was out the window now. And then to complicate things more, my partner at that time also got relocated for work outside of Edmonton. So now I had a property I couldn't really build because it just didn't make sense. And I wasn't as committed to Edmonton because I had no family and friends here. So I was really torn as to what to do. So my option at that point, as I saw fit, was to pack up my son and move to China for 5 years. So a complete pivot from total Edmonton domination and having millions of dollars in Edmonton to, hey, let's pack up and go to China, right? So my kid was 6 years old at that time, and it just made perfect sense to pack up and move to China. So we jumped into plan 2, which was to either sell the property, and I was very motivated to sell. So I was willing to offer a very sizable vendor take back on it. My second option was to rent out the property, or to do a rent to own, or to do an agreement for sale. I was open to every option under the sun so that we could pack up and go to China. The second option, which was the renting out the property, was not my favorite one. That was actually my worst one, because the house was old. Like, I purchased it knowing I was going to demolish it. So renting it out, just, I knew I wasn't going to cash flow, and the tenant would just be a lot of headaches because there'd just be a lot of maintenance issues. And so renting it out was my least favorite option. So I was hoping that I would either sell the property or rent to own or an agreement for sale. So any of the options. So luckily I did find a buyer, and they were willing to buy it from me for $230,000 with a very good VTB. They put a $5,000 down. They agreed to an 8% interest-only monthly payment. So this was part of my private lending journey as well. We did a 5-year term because I can defer the capital gains for 5 years. And we closed July 2019. So then basically in 2019, we packed up and we moved to China. So you remember from my original purchase of $200,000, I actually made $30,000 on this deal in a couple of months, which was pretty good. I bought the property outright, so I was happy with an 8% return on my cash. And being able to defer capital gains was a great thing for me at that point too. Right, so I actually thought I did pretty good on this. So if you remember my timeline, we went to China in 2019, 2020, and that's when COVID hit. So we actually came back from China because of COVID. So I got into a bunch of joint ventures and did some other projects in between the time frame. And we were expecting the VTB to finish in 2024, right? So the timing was great. Do my other projects, sit on this property, have the buyer pay me a steady flow of income. Unfortunately, at the end of 2023, they started defaulting on their interest payments. So this was the ripple effect from COVID. And so they started defaulting on their payments. So I went to them and said, hey, you know what? There's this densification rule coming up in the new year. why don't we partner up? You guys have the land, why don't we partner up and we build an eightplex on there? They weren't of the investor mindset. They didn't want to take on that risk, take on any of the work, even though I offered to do all the work. They basically wanted to just walk away from the property. So they had already started defaulting on the property and the payments. And so I was left with no choice but to actually take the land back. So we took the land back and they agreed to sell it to me for $270. So the increase in the price was to cover the amount that they were in default, legal fees and some administration costs. So I basically got the land back with zero payment. And they walked away and they were happy because they now didn't have to worry about having anything affecting their credit. And they basically got to live at the house for about a year for free. So we closed on that in October 2024. And so up until that point, the cute little white picket house was still there. And then it got demolished in November of last year. So my strategy at that point when I got the land back was to, one, sell it to another investor and let them build it out. Because at that point, the densification laws had come in. My second option was to joint venture with a builder. So maybe like a 50-50 partnership. Since I owned the land, they could come and do all the work, we split the profit, sell it. Or the third option was for me to build myself. So at that time, I had no experience in land development, never really done one. And so I tried to sell the property to another investor. Being Asian and being a fellow investor, I hate it when other investors try to nickel and dime me and buy my property at a cheap ass price. I do that to other people, but I hate it when they do it to me. So I couldn't sell the property at a reasonable price to another investor. They all came in super low ball price. So during that time, I was also interviewing with a lot of potential builders who sounded like they were interested in a 50-50 partnership. But when we sat down and talked about how the structure would go, they didn't actually really understand how that joint venture partnership would work. And so even talking to them, running the numbers and so forth, I couldn't find a partner that I was comfortable partnering up in. The other reason that I couldn't really find a joint venture partner to partner up in, even if I could hold the land and then put in the cash to build out and they did the build, or if we brought in another money partner, I wasn't bullish on the Edmonton market. Like I saw a lot of investors buying in Edmonton and doing these eightplexes, and I just couldn't understand the numbers. I couldn't see where they were making their money. And so I couldn't present the offering to another capital investor and say, hey, you know what, we're going to be able to return all of your capital back at the end of construction. Or that, hey, you know what, once we're done, you're going to get a 20+% return on your money. Right? I wasn't bullish on the Edmonton market, and so I didn't feel comfortable bringing in another money partner to be able to do that. So my last option, which was to build by myself. So I had a mentor who said, Huong, just do it yourself. And he's a builder in Ottawa. And he said, Huong, you've never done a build yourself, so you're gonna use this and learn from it. And you'll realize it's easier than you think, right? So at that time, I didn't have a team locally in Edmonton, but then my friend Dawn became my boots on the ground, and that was a game changer for me in terms of taking the next step with building it myself. So these were the key criteria that I looked for in terms of doing any of these infill projects. The biggest thing that I wanted was to be able to know that myself or my money partners would get all or the majority of our cash back at the end of construction. And I couldn't guarantee that 100%. So these were the numbers that I got from different builders at that time. So this was 2024, at the end of 2023, 2024. So the biggest thing for me that I want to point out for you guys is the after built value. They were appraising it at about 1.9 to 2.1 million. Eastwood is an okay area. It's sort of like a B, so some people would argue it's a C area. So the price point to build it though was $1.8 to $2 million. So at this point, it just still didn't make sense to build, right? Like there wasn't enough buffer there, right? And I always look at my time in terms of, okay, well, how much money am I gonna get out of this? Like, is it worth my time to work on this project, right? I'm just gonna go back here and show you this. So one of the things that all of the builders came with was a square foot price of greater than $200 a square foot. So that was sort of my benchmark. I was like, okay, if it's above 200, it's not worth my time to do it. So I was out there looking for a builder who could give me something for under $200 a square foot. So I'm currently living in Vancouver right now. Our cost to build is $450 a square foot. And here I was trying to find something under 200 a square foot. So I was stuck again, because I was just like, why are all these people talking about building these eightplexes in Edmonton? The numbers just don't make sense. Like, why would they put all this time and energy, fight over buying these lots, paying full price for the lots, spending all this time, dealing with CMHC, and then having all the MLI rules change on them? Like, why are they constantly trying to like build these eightplexes? I just couldn't understand this. And then I realized that, well, a lot of the individuals that were doing these eightplexes were local to Edmonton or local to Calgary. And so for them, they were very bullish on the Edmonton market, right? For me, being from Toronto and living in Vancouver, I didn't have that same mindset. Right? And then it also occurred to me that a lot of the people from Ontario or BC that are buying in Edmonton right now, they're looking at the cash flow and they're laughing because we can't buy properties in Ontario or BC that cash flow. Right? It's not the same type of market.
Thanks for watching the video up until this point. The rest of the video is available, but we do ask that you reach out to us so that we can send you the private link. The reason why we chopped off the video at this point is because some of the information is quite confidential and private. And so we want to make sure that we know where that information is going. So if you want to get the rest of the video, please just email us and we will send that over to you. All right, thanks very much.